Hey everybody, it's me, Jeremy, your host. It is very nice to have everybody here for episode number 2. We just wanted to say really quickly here at the beginning that we are so happy with the response that we've gotten to episode 1 and to the podcast in general. People have been so supportive and so excited about it. We're really excited about it, and we love the fact that you are too. You know, we make jokes throughout the first few episodes about our listener, but you know, if reaction has been any indication, we have listeners. So that's really exciting for us. We're super happy to have you here. So before we get started with episode number 2, I wanted to say we are officially a real podcast. Why am I saying that? Well, we've received our first correction. We're very excited about this as well. So in the previous episode during Anne of Green Gables, I made a statement that I have realized was a little ignorant. Basically, Ariel was talking about how in the versions of Anne of Green Gables that we see, there are really no people of color on Prince Edward Island, in the Prince Edward Island we see. I made a comment that felt historically accurate, that they were pretty much all white. Turns out I was wrong about that. So one of our listeners, Hannah, sent in a very detailed email talking about all of the different ways that I was wrong. So I'm going to go over a couple of those right now. First of all, as she writes us, that PEI has a really interesting history of non-white people. First of all, it's completely situated in Micmac territory, and actually it's a territory that's never been ceded or bargained away to white settlers, meaning the Micmac people still maintain their right to sovereignty over it. It's a really interesting article that she sent us about that. Also, she looked into the history of other people of color on PEI and found that they have a really rich history of black settlers dating back to the 1700s, many originally brought as slaves by loyalists fleeing the American Revolution. So, you know what, honestly, I'm going to own that one. That's on me. That was my ignorance right there. And I'm really happy that I have learned something, and I hope some of our listeners have learned something as well. So Hannah, we really appreciate it. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started with episode number 2. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to Adapter Parish. This is episode number 2. My name is Jeremy Latour.
My name is Ariel Lipshaw.
And we are going to be coming to you and talking about different things that have been turned into other things. Maybe it's a book that's been turned into movies. Maybe it's a play that's been turned into a movie. Maybe it's been other things that have been turned into movies.
It's a podcast about adaptation.
It's a podcast about adaptation. So this week, we are talking about something that is very near and dear to my heart. We are talking about
Jurassic Park.
We are talking about Jurassic Park. I cannot stress this enough to everyone. Hold on to your butts, because we are talking about Jurassic Park.
That's a line from the movie.
It's a line from the movie.
We saw it.
It's so good.
So, do you want to tell the viewers what Jurassic Park is?
No one's viewing this. Everyone's listening to it.
The listeners?
It's a podcast. This is only our second episode. We're figuring this out as we go along.
So Jurassic Park.
No, let's talk about Jurassic Park for a second.
Jurassic Park was a book.
So if we're giving just kind of a brass tacks kind of basis of it, Jurassic Park is a book. It was made into a movie and has since been made into
more movies.
There have been more movies. So one book was turned into a movie, then another book was written, that was turned into a movie. Then Jurassic Park 3 came out that wasn't based on an existing book, and then Jurassic World came out a couple of years ago, and that was not based on an existing book, and now there's like a whole new franchise that's starting with that. But today we are only going to be talking about...
I was really just going to ask what year the book came out and what the author's name was.
Oh, the book came out in the early 90s, and the author is Michael Crichton.
Michael Crichton.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there's a whole bunch of... I'm sorry, I got to calm down a little bit about this right now because Jurassic Park is incredibly important to me, and it's something that I absolutely love.
He geeked out for a second.
I geeked out for a second. It happens. Mm-hmm. So basically, Jurassic Park is this big franchise. However, for our purposes today, we are going to be talking about two things. We're going to be talking about the book, Jurassic Park, and we're going to be talking about the movie, Jurassic Park.
Right.
So this is going to be pretty straightforward.
Right.
So I want to give a little bit of my background on this, just kind of how I came to everything. Now, I came to Jurassic Park the way many people came to Jurassic Park. I was 10 years old in 1993 when Jurassic Park came out in theaters. And I just want to say this for those of you listening. I cannot stress this enough. If you have the opportunity to be 10 years old and see Jurassic Park for the first time, I highly recommend it. It is a fantastic experience. I would get on that as soon as you can. It was wonderful. Like many kids, like this Jurassic Park was everything I thought about. I lived and ate and breathed Jurassic Park for several years after the movie came out. It was the best thing I'd ever seen. And if you had asked me at like 15 what my favorite movie was, I would have said, well, it's Jurassic Park. I mean, obviously it's Jurassic Park. There's no other movie that is as good as Jurassic Park, right?
That's what you would have said?
That's what I would have said.
Yeah. So my relationship to Jurassic Park is a little bit different.
Right.
Which is, I think maybe at some point in the past, I saw Jurassic Park. I do remember my 5th grade teacher getting in trouble for showing Jurassic Park to our class because it was PG-13.
Did they get in trouble because of objectionable content or because the movie's basically bullshit?
Well, I think it was just based on the rating.
Okay.
But the only thing that I have any kind of sense memory of is the guy getting eaten on the toilet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, and as we are going to say every episode, spoiler alerts.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
A man gets eaten on the toilet.
Here's the deal. I mean, I think this is pretty safe to say that if anyone's listening to this, you've at least seen Jurassic Park, so I don't think that's going to be too big of a deal. Well, but spoiler alerts.
Never know.
Spoiler alerts going forward.
I mean, I had never sat down and watched Jurassic Park from beginning to end while only just watching Jurassic Park before last night.
Yep.
So
I've done it many times.
Yeah, I understand that.
I love this movie.
Yeah. I also read the book for the first time.
Right, absolutely, which we're going to get to.
We're going to get to.
And so this is a weird thing because we're going at this in an interesting direction because we got to talk about the movie first. We have to talk about the movie before the book because that's how I came to it. So I saw this movie when I was 10. I saw this movie 3 times in the theater. And that was the most I had seen any movie in the theater for years. That was like a huge deal for me. That was like, oh, Jurassic Park, that's the movie I saw 3 times in the theater. And I had the posters, and I had the action figures, and I had the comic books that were based on it, and I had the playing cards that were from the movie. I got them because they said Jurassic Park. I needed everything that said Jurassic Park. Maybe later I can tell my story about the Jurassic Park logo.
Yeah, you should. Do you know what movie I saw 3 times in the theaters?
What was that?
Titanic.
Yeah, I know. And that's...
That's really judgmental.
It's super judgmental.
And I
really
just want to point out that this is not only a discussion show, but also a criticism show. And I was specifically asked not to offer criticism of Jurassic Park.
That is not what I said.
Because it would hurt my dear spouse's feelings.
That's not what I said. I didn't say you couldn't offer criticism of Jurassic Park. I said I would appreciate if any criticism you offered wasn't glib.
Right. And then I had to ask you for your definition of glib. So afraid was I that I would hurt your feels.
I think I define glib as like immediately dismissive, absolutely. So I think making puking noises at Titanic maybe goes against that.
That was against the rules.
Hey, here's the deal. That's super fair. So I saw Jurassic Park a bunch of times when I was a kid. It is one of the most vivid memories I have of going to the theater. It's dinosaurs. It's so good. It's such a good movie. I also was 10 years old and found out, oh my God, there's a book. Wait, this was a book first? Like, I can read the book too in addition to watching the movie? This is the best day ever. So I read the book a bunch of times when I was a kid. Like, I totally bought it. I had it. It was great. It was a book that I loved. I reread it recently. And I hadn't read it for a number of years. So I think what makes the most sense right now is for us to kind of put the movie aside for a second. Let's talk about the book a little bit.
Even though you said we had to talk about the movie first.
But we did talk about it first.
Oh, okay. We just talked about your feelings about it.
My feelings. I have so many feelings about this movie.
You have a lot of feelings.
There's so many feelings about it.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. I don't know what your experience is. How many Michael Crichton books have you read?
I have read the Michael Crichton book, The Terminal Man.
Right.
Approximately 47 times.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why.
I didn't know that was
It's just a book that we had in our house.
I didn't know you read Terminal Man that many times.
Yeah, I read it a million times.
I'm not even sure I read that one.
Yeah.
I got super into Michael Crichton when I was a kid after Jurassic Park came out. And I read Rising Sun way before I understood I read Rising Sun and Disclosure way before I understood what was really being talked about in those books. I read Lost World, which we will have to save for another episode
Never read
because
that.
that itself was adapted into another movie.
Did Michael Crichton write Congo?
He did write Congo.
Okay.
Yeah.
I never read or saw it, but there was a line from Congo that my brothers and I used to quote back and forth to each other, which we can talk about at a later time.
No, I want to know what it was.
It's... I don't remember it.
Did the line have anything to do with, oh my god, look at all of those gorillas?
No, it has to do with something about they live for the opportunity to settle scores, and they have a lot of scores to settle.
Was that from the movie or the book?
The movie.
And was it Tim Curry saying that?
I believe it was Tim Curry, yes.
I'm sure it was. That doesn't surprise me at all.
We definitely have not talked about the fact that Tim Curry is like my favorite actor of all time.
Tim Curry's amazing, and here's the deal. We're going to get into some
But he
things
was
that
not
Tim
in
Curry's
Jurassic
He's
Park.
not in Jurassic Park, but he's in Congo.
Yeah.
But I read a bunch of Michael Crichton. I read those. I read The Great Train Robbery, which I actually think is Michael Crichton's best book, his first
I read
book.
The Great Train Robbery because you made me read it on the beach.
I did, yeah, and it was great.
It was all right.
I love
I don't remember anything about it.
this robbery.
I'm sorry.
It's great.
Of a train.
Yep.
Okay.
So, I read Michael Crichton for years, and we could easily do separate episodes on every single one of his books because so many of them have been turned into movies. He's an author that was super popular among filmmakers and studios. His stuff got turned into things all the time.
It's very visual.
Super visual. Super visual.
Which I think is kind of why, and again, we can get into this, and I may be...
Just get into it.
Leading the lead too soon. I think that's why the movies of his work are better movies than the books are books.
I think that's a really bold statement, and I can say that having seen Congo.
Okay. Well, it may well be a bold statement, but it is a statement that you yourself said to me last night.
I might have. Well, no, I was saying that specifically about Jurassic Park. No, Jurassic...
Well, there are a couple of authors that I could name that they have had their books adapted into movies where the movie is kind of better than the sum of its parts. Mm-hmm. I would say The Godfather is a very prime example of that, and we can talk about The Godfather in a later show.
Oh, absolutely.
The book The Godfather is really awful.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And if anybody's interested in hearing our opinions on that, you know what? We're probably going to cover that in a future episode.
Yeah. But the book Jurassic Park.
Yep.
I wouldn't say it's awful.
No, it's not.
It's certainly more plot and image driven than character driven. I would definitely
100%.
not call it a character driven book. Like, you
100%.
don't know anything about any of the characters.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of important in a book.
No, and that's a problem. That's something that I didn't notice until a couple of years ago when I reread Jurassic Park. It had probably been about 10 years since I'd reread it. And reading it again, it was shocking to me just how two-dimensional all of the characters are.
Yeah, super two-dimensional.
These are archetypes I feel like it's a window into Michael Crichton's head. Mm-hmm. That I want to take two characters, for example, to kind of analyze.
Cool.
And we'll kind of get into later, we'll compare them to their movie counterpart. Mm-hmm. But let's talk about Alan Grant and Ellie Sattler.
Okay.
Sorry, Dr. Alan Grant and Dr. Ellie Sattler.
24-year-old PhD.
So
Dr.
let's
Ellie
talk about Ellie for a second. So you just read it.
Mm-hmm.
So how is she described in the book?
She is described by her appearance, mm-hmm. her age,
yep.
and her clothing.
Right, so her age is...
24.
24.
She is tan.
Super tan.
She is wearing shorts.
Mm-hmm.
And she is hot.
Yes.
And the reason we know that she is hot is that she is ogled by every character that comes into contact with her.
Mm-hmm. And it almost...
By some characters multiple times.
Exactly. And the thing is, in the writing of it, it could easily have been written in a way that's aware of that fact.
Right.
And kind of, operating on a higher level.
Which actually, the movie kind of does.
The movie does, which we will get into.
Yes.
But in the book, I never really get the sense that Michael Crichton is aware of what he's writing.
Right. And that was sort of my main problem with the book.
I think he was creating a character that he himself would be attracted to.
Right.
He was just like, no, I'm a creepy old man, and you know what? Okay, so I'm going to say this. Young PhDs are a thing that I'd be into. Young, hot PhDs.
Okay, well...
So let's talk about her level of education for a second.
So no one is a full PhD at 24 unless they were Doogie Howser and went to college at 16. And since that is not ever really mentioned, and it's interesting because in the book, Dr. Grant says that she is his graduate student, which makes sense, except that she's a doctor.
Yeah.
She is referred to as a doctor. You're not a doctor until you finish your PhD.
Right.
You don't have your PhD in a hard science at 24. And the only reason that I can think as to why...
And I'll interrupt really quickly. Just in case we're wrong, and that does happen, please let us know.
Yeah, let us know.
Yeah, at adapterparishcast@gmail.com. We would very much like to hear your opinions on that, but please continue.
Because old women are icky.
Old women are icky.
Women in their 30s are icky.
I really get the sense from Michael Crichton that he finds older women icky.
Yeah.
I very recently have started to see that with his books. I think he's a guy who's really into like... so this is the best way I can put it. Let's talk about Alan Grant for a second.
He's like, what, 40?
He's in his mid-40s, strapping, barrel-chested,
Bearded.
He is as masculine as a man could be. He's incredibly masculine. And so you take the comparison between Alan Grant and Ellie Sattler in the book, you have this incredibly masculine, bearded, barrel-chested guy and this super hot 24-year-old tan...
Blonde.
Dr. Hottie.
Presumably blonde. I actually am not sure if her hair color is explicitly mentioned.
I think it's fair to say that the implication is she's blonde.
I mean, obviously she's blonde.
We're probably not going on very much on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the thing about these characters is that beyond that, there really isn't much else. There's nothing interesting about them. And
we know nothing about them. We know nothing about... We know that they are passionate about their jobs. We know nothing about their personal lives, really. A little bit.
A little.
And honestly, the one thing that I thought that the book did as regards the relationship between Grant and Sattler that I thought the movie kind of fell down hard on was that it was explicit in the book that they were not romantically involved with each other.
Right.
And I think, I'm not sure Michael Crichton did that on purpose based on his other things in the book, which we can continue to talk about. But I think it is important that you can have a man and a woman be close and have a close relationship, and especially a professor and their student without being romantically involved with each other.
This is
and in
true.
the movie, it was very explicit that they were a couple.
Right. I agree with that.
Yeah.
However, I still think their characters were better handled in the movie than
they were
in the
better
book.
handled in the...
But I want to give an example of that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to give one specific example. In the book, how does Dr. Grant feel about kids?
He likes kids.
He likes kids.
Yeah, he likes kids.
Does it go anything beyond that?
No, he likes kids because they like dinosaurs.
Exactly. And it's simple and it's done. And throughout the book, he's with the kids and it makes sense because he likes kids. It's boring.
Yeah.
He has no arc whatsoever.
Right.
I want to stick a pin in that because we're going to come back to that when we talk about the movie.
Cool.
But I think it's really important to talk about that specific part of his character.
Yeah, I did take some notes on that.
Yeah, it's just there isn't much to him. He's a guy, he's nice, he likes kids and dinosaurs. That's all we really know about him.
That's all we know about him. And we know his wife is dead.
Yes, we do know that.
And we know that Ellie is marrying a doctor in Chicago.
Right.
Those are the only things we know about their personal lives.
Exactly. And then, so what are some of the other characters we have? Let's talk. Yeah, please.
Now that we're talking about characters in the book, this might be a good time to launch into a segment, which I am calling The Female Character Was a Little Underwritten.
Okay.
In tribute to Leslie Knope.
I'm fine with that.
And Patton Oswalt.
Yeah.
So, as I read this book, I took some notes.
Okay.
And what I was taking note of...
In all the times I've ever read this book, I've never taken notes about this book.
Well, I mean, I was reading it specifically for this podcast.
I know. Go on.
I took some notes.
I'm interested.
And the notes that I took as I read was I wrote down the name of every named female character.
I bet it was a short list.
It's a short list.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about these female characters is that every one of them is either a child, sexy,
yes,
or a caretaker.
But thankfully not all three.
Yeah, not all three together at the same time. We have...
And say whatever you want about Michael Crichton. He wasn't really big on writing sexy children.
Right. Do you want to guess at the number of named female characters? Female characters with names.
Yes. I'm going to say 4.
You're actually under. There were 9.
Oh, really?
Yep, 9.
Oh, fantastic.
Now, let me ask you this, because I feel like...
This book is a high watermark of feminism in the 90s literature.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I feel like someone might say,
Yeah.
but Ariel, this book is basically a bottle episode. They are trapped on an island. There are not very many characters of any gender in this book, and you can't complain that there are very few female characters because there are very few male characters. Would
Can I ask
you
a
like
question?
to offer
Can I ask a question?
guess
Yeah, how
at
many...
the number
Yeah.
of named men in the book, the 400-page novel, Jurassic Park, by Michael Crichton, given the fact that, admittedly, there is sort of a subsection of people that are on an island by themselves for quite a long period of time in the book.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and play Price is Right rules on this.
Okay.
30.
That's not bad. That's not bad. There are 37.
Hey, fantastic. I win.
37.
I thought it would be in the 30 to 40 range.
Yep. 37 men.
Yep.
9 women. 2 of whom are little girls.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not going to read off the whole list.
No, you shouldn't.
But that was by my count. And just the thing that struck me was that there are a bunch of people in the book that we don't know anything about. I mean, most of the characters we don't know anything about.
Right.
But every doctor, other than Ellie Sattler, every scientist, everyone who's referenced, every lawyer, every board member, every business person, every single one is male.
Yep.
And I found that upsetting.
I think that's valid.
Just given that this book was written and set in the late 80s, early 90s, I feel like we often see movies that I say to you, there's no reason that character couldn't have been a woman. I feel like when we saw Wonder Woman and like the evil scientist was a woman, but really there was nothing about that character that was either male or female. She was just evil. I thought that was an example of a movie that did it really well.
Right.
Like that character was pretty genderless.
Sure.
But they made her a woman. And I feel like that never happens, so it was kind of remarkable. But I feel like Jurassic Park was remarkable in that literally there was not one single female character other than, the nursery attendant, the dinosaur nursery attendant was a woman named Kathy.
Yeah.
And that was the only other woman that the woman that served Hammond ice cream was named Maria.
Well, here's the deal. I'm going to go ahead and say this.
Okay, go ahead.
I think it is a very fair assessment that Michael Crichton knew exactly what he was doing, and his ratio of male to female characters of employees on the island was directly related to his characterization of Hammond as a boss. I'm kidding. No, of course not. Of course not. No. Oh my God. Oh my God. No, absolutely not. Michael Crichton was not thinking about that at all.
There was also a nameless black man. There was a character who's just referred to as a black man.
The best part is, at this point, you have now gone into territory that I don't feel comfortable going into. I feel super comfortable making really wide assumptions about Michael Crichton's views on women. I don't know how I feel about making assumptions about his views on race.
I'm just saying the one person who was ever referred to by their race had no name.
Okay.
I'm not calling Michael Crichton a racist. I'm just asking him to check his
No,
privilege.
because that would be a really bold statement.
Also, he's passed, right? Like, we can't...
Oh, no, he's super dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. No,
So, I don't want to accuse him of anything.
This is not the place for me to go into it, but I have some problems with Michael Crichton as a person.
Okay.
Him being dead is not a problem I have with him. That's sad. But bottom line, Michael Crichton has some issues that I have with
I don't
him.
know anything about Michael Crichton, but I feel like maybe he never met a woman.
I mean, here's the deal. That's I don't think that's a fair statement, but certainly the ratio in Jurassic Park is problematic.
It's problematic.
But let's get back to
just use the word problematic and let it leave it there.
We'll leave it there. So let's get back to the characters.
That's
for a
the end
minute.
of the female characters a little underwritten segment.
Fantastic. It was a wonderful segment. I'm very excited about it.
We're going to do this again.
Okay, fantastic. So we've got Dr. Grant, we've got Dr. Sattler. We should talk about, I think, just kind of run through them a little quicker. We've got John Hammond. John Hammond is the reason why all of this is happening. He's the one who owns the island. He's the one who pays the scientists. He is the reason why there are dinosaurs. By the way, there's dinosaurs. We're going to get into that.
Oh, yeah, there's dinosaurs.
Yeah.
So I have a gender thing to say about the dinosaurs, too, but We can talk about it later.
I'm not even surprised.
Yeah.
Not even a little.
They're all female.
Yeah.
But they're referred to with male pronouns constantly.
Well, yeah, but there's a whole thing about that.
Well, other than it's like,
that
they're really big and powerful, so we call him he, even though she's female.
I don't think...
Literally, they say that in the book.
Is that the direct quote?
Yes, it is!
Okay, it's problematic. All right. Ugh. But the understanding is they're all females. Unless life finds a way. So, let's talk about the human characters.
Okay.
So, John Hammond is in charge of all of this. John Hammond... How would you describe his character?
Well, in the book or the movie?
No, the book. We're not talking about the movie yet.
Okay, in the book,
yeah,
he is thoughtless.
Yep.
He's rude.
Yeah.
He is full of himself.
Yep.
He is not self-reflective in any way.
Nope.
He does not care about any other person.
Nope.
And he is really, really, really interested in making a lot of money.
He's a bit of a dick.
He's a big dick.
He's a dick.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, I feel like dick is a really gendered insult, so maybe we shouldn't say that.
He is a bit of an asshole.
He's an asshole.
Yep, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he is an asshole. Yeah, we don't like Hammond.
No.
Hammond's a jerk.
No, he's awful. He has no redeeming qualities.
Nope.
And at the end of the book,
mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess this is maybe a spoiler. At the end of the book, he gets eaten by a dinosaur.
He gets eaten by a bunch of little dinosaurs.
Little dinosaurs. He gets pecked to death by dinosaurs.
Yeah. And his death, I want to talk about his death in more detail, so let's save that for a few minutes.
Okay.
So we've got Hammond. He's a dick. A couple other people that we have on the island. We've got Dr. Ian Malcolm.
He's also a dick.
He's a dick.
I mean, an asshole.
Yeah, and there's nothing about him
Nothing redeeming.
But there's nothing about him that's that interesting beyond the fact that he is just kind of a rock star.
Right. Well,
that's kind of it.
He gets all of the moralistic speeches.
Exactly. Yeah, he's a rock star who's full of himself.
Yeah.
We've got Dennis Nedry.
He's awful.
He's awful. He's just a nerd.
He's a nerd.
He's a geek. He's a computer geek.
He's a computer geek, but he feels like put upon, and he feels like people. He feels like people don't give him enough respect, and she's gonna show everybody. He's gonna
exactly.
show them all.
Yeah, that is that you just played the one note of the Symphony of Dennis Nedry.
Right.
That is the one note.
I'm gonna show you guys.
Yeah.
There is John Arnold.
Yep.
Who is what is he? I don't really know what his job is. He was Samuel L. Jackson in the movie. He was kind of forgettable in the book.
He's just in charge.
Yeah. There's Muldoon, who is the big game hunter.
He's the game warden.
In the book, they call him the white game hunter.
That's true.
It's problematic and racial.
When it comes to race, I do not feel qualified to make comments on it. I have not done the research.
It felt awkward.
It felt a little awkward, yeah.
I didn't enjoy that.
Yep.
There's Henry Wu.
Right.
Who has about 2 lines in the movie, but is a major part of the book.
Yes. Until he dies.
Played by the delightful B.D. Wong.
Super dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
he makes it all the way. He's in Jurassic World, by the way.
Oh, does he?
Oh, yeah. No, he comes back in Jurassic World.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Who else? Oh, Gennaro.
Yep, the lawyer.
He's the lawyer.
Yep, the blood-sucking lawyer.
Blood-sucking lawyer.
Who, by the way, in the book, nice guy.
Yeah, he's fine.
He's fine.
He's kind of like, he's just a guy that wants to kind of do the right thing.
Yeah, he's just this guy that's there.
He's
when
just a guy.
When it comes to, like, looking after the kids,
yeah.
like, Gennaro's, like, into it.
Oh, well, let's talk about a character in the book that isn't in the movie then.
Who's that?
Ed Regis.
Ed Regis, yeah.
Ed Regis is sort of the Donald Gennaro of the book.
Yeah.
They sort of they sort of combine those two characters.
Right.
Which I think is probably a thing we're going to get into as we continue to talk about adaptations.
Yes. But
they've conflated two characters
Ed
together.
Regis is in it. He is, I'll be honest with you.
He's the PR guy, by the way, if people haven't read the book.
Right. I haven't read the book in about 2 years.
Okay.
Every time I read this book, I immediately forget who Ed Regis is.
Right.
Immediately after reading it, I forget. When I'm reading it, I'm like, oh, cool, Ed Regis, that's cool. And then I forget as soon as I'm done reading the book.
The weird thing is, I was convinced that Ed Regis was in the movie, and I had a very specific image in my mind of him being played by the guy who plays the principal from Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Jeffrey Jones, yeah, totally not in that movie.
I don't know why I thought
not
that.
In that movie
I
at
thought
all.
he was the guy that gets eaten on the toilet.
Nope.
But it's Gennaro.
It is Gennaro.
Yeah.
Yep. So Ed Regis is in it. There's kind of a nothing character. And there's not, I mean, who else is there? There's a lot of little minor characters here and there. There's Dodgson.
We don't know much about him. There's the guy who's at the very beginning. The scientist at the very beginning is of the movie who's not named, who's played by, it's that guy, who I don't know that actor's name.
Right.
I think he might be supposed to be Marty Gutierrez.
Yeah, there's...
Who's the scientist that's like at the beginning and the very end of the book.
Yeah.
He's actually really important in the book.
Right.
I actually, the reason I'm looking at my notes is I have a list of characters that I wrote down, and I was checking them off as they appeared in the movie.
Right.
But we haven't talked about the kids.
No, let's talk about those kids.
So there's Tim
Yep.
and Lex.
Okay. And Tim is, of course, the younger brother.
Well, in the book, he is the older brother.
No. What?
Yes.
What?
In the book,
Yeah.
Tim is the one he's into dinosaurs.
Yep.
And he's into computers.
So basically in the movie, you've got Tim who's into dinosaurs and Lex who's into computers.
Right.
But in the book, it's just Tim is into dinosaurs and he's into computers and Lex is his dumb little sister.
Who's into baseball.
Yep.
And Tim is a disappointment to his father.
Mm-hmm.
And Lex is like a tomboy. So
Right.
she's very close to her father. And she's always wanting to play catch.
Yep. Because in Michael Crichton's mind, a little girl that acts like a boy is someone her father would be proud of.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
There's a huge assumption I just made.
Yeah, really. Like, that was even farther than I was willing to go.
Well, you know what? I got nothing to say. I got my problems with Michael Crichton.
But we know that Tim has a fractured relationship with his father
Yep.
because boys aren't supposed to be into dinosaurs.
Which is the dumbest thing I've ever
Which is really
heard.
dumb. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think of dinosaurs as being gendered. Do you?
No. I mean, yes.
Really?
A little bit.
Like, that girls are supposed to be into dinosaurs?
Oh, gendered in that way?
Yeah.
No, you're right. No, you're absolutely right. That makes no sense.
Yeah, I don't think that makes sense at all. I mean, there's a lot of talk in the book about how kids are into dinosaurs, and I think that's true.
Right.
Like, he talks about, like, any 3-year-old knows the difference between a stegosaurus and a brontosaurus, which I have heard,
You've heard of Brontosaurus.
Well, I'm saying, like, I've heard parents say that.
Yeah.
And full disclosure, like, we don't have children, so, if we're wrong, write in.
Right. adapterparishcast@gmail.com.
There you go. That could be not right. Mm-hmm. But I feel like I've heard people say that, like, kids are really into dinosaurs and they memorize all the dinosaurs. I mean, I was into dinosaurs when I was a kid. Were you into dinosaurs? I mean, clearly you were into dinosaurs.
I literally cried when we were watching the movie when he says, "Welcome to Jurassic Park."
Yeah, you did. You did cry. I looked over and you were in tears.
I was into dinosaurs a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. You did cry.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, full disclosure, like, this is going to come up again in this podcast. It's like not just this movie. Like, you have a lot of feelings.
Oh my God, I cry at everything.
Yeah, you have a lot of feelings in
Why
your
would
heart.
you even bring that up?
I mean, I'm just saying I think it's going to come up again, and I don't want the viewers to think
No one's viewing this.
The listener.
No one's viewing this with their ears.
I don't want the listeners to think that, like, we're only picking movies that make Jeremy cry.
No, that's all
Every movie
movies.
makes Jeremy cry.
No, that's all movies. Yeah.
Especially Moana.
Why? Yes. Yeah, you could. No, you can't just say every movie makes him cry, especially this one movie. If you've already said every movie makes me cry, name a movie, it makes me cry.
Field of Dreams.
Yeah. No, you can keep naming movies. That's beside. Doesn't matter. So let's get back to the book for a second.
Apollo 13.
I think that's basically all of the shut up. That's basically all of the characters. That's all the characters that really matter.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I noticed actually as we were watching the movie and I was kind of checking off characters. I was like, oh, okay, they got really all the important ones.
Right.
Other than Ed Regis, there wasn't really anyone that was significant throughout the book, although when we get to Sir Not Appearing in This Film, I do have a candidate.
Yeah.
But yeah, they covered all the basics.
Right.
The basic characters.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I want to talk about the plot for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So, the plot is definitely... I don't think there's a way to talk about the plot without comparing it to the movie.
No, we can definitely do that.
But let's try for a second. So, the plot of the book, I would call... It's a big plot. There's a lot of stuff that happens in it.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
It's a complicated plot.
It's very simplified for the movie.
It's a complex plot.
Yes.
There's a lot of different things that are going on. In the movie, the plot is basically, we go to this island.
There's dinosaurs.
Oh no, dinosaurs.
They get out.
We got to get out, and then we get out.
Yeah.
And people die.
Yeah.
That's the plot of it. In the book, though, there's many, if we were divided into acts, there's many different acts.
And the book is actually divided into acts. It's like, I forget the names of sort of, it's not even the chapters, but it's sort of divided into sections. And it's all about, it's based on chaos theory.
Right,
like,
exactly.
It's like, as the chaos progresses, the different sections of the book have different names.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So the movie follows all of these different subplots. You're following not just the main story of the park and the dinosaurs getting out, everything like that, but there's also this entire subplot about how they never had control in the first place.
Right.
And it's been going crazy under their radar for the longest time.
Everyone has known from the beginning that everything is messed up completely.
Exactly.
And that is actually a really good point, because it's something that I noticed in the movie from the beginning. The very first scene of the movie, where, like, before the credits roll, it's like they're... it's the scene where the workman gets mauled by the dinosaur.
Right.
And they're clearly transporting something very big and very dangerous onto the island, and it's raining and it's dark and it's very dramatic, and there's a million guys with this big, like, armored container, and Muldoon is there with his gun, and he's directing everyone, and it's like a military operation and everything. They've taken so many precautions, and the guy still gets grabbed and eaten, basically.
Yep.
And the big difference in that scene, what I wrote down was, like, the whole point in the book is that they didn't take any of those precautions, because nobody was working under the assumption that any of this was dangerous.
Right, exactly.
So they weren't, like that was actually kind of the whole point of the book, that they didn't take any precautions. So it was a huge difference between the book and the movie, that you lead into the movie with this sense of danger. Does that make sense?
I think that does make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's this whole subplot in the book as well that, like, so essentially, I mean, how many velociraptors are there in the movie?
I mean, how many do we see? Like 3.
There's 3.
Yeah.
We are told that there were about 8. And now there's 3.
In the book, there's like 37.
In the book, there's so many of them because they've been breeding.
Right.
They have escaped and they are breeding.
Well, and also, but even the number that they expect to see, there's a huge plot in the book about how they count the dinosaurs. They count the dinosaurs, so they know that they're okay, and they know exactly how many of every species they're supposed to have at any given time. And the number that they're supposed to have is like 37. Like, it's still a lot.
That was actually one of my favorite parts of the book. That's something that I think was a fantastic plot twist that I do give Michael Crichton 100% credit
With the
for.
computer program?
Which is the fact that the program is never... It basically, it says, I'm looking for 37 velociraptors.
Oh, yes.
If I find 37, I'm
stop.
done.
Oh, totally. Because remember how many times when we were watching the movie that I said this is not how computers work?
Right.
That was the one scene in the book where because I like, full disclosure, I work in tech. That is exactly how computers work.
Yeah.
And I actually thought that was great. And I thought that was really... So what happens is, like, they're searching for 37 velociraptors, and when it gets to 37, it stops and says, cool, I found all 37 velociraptors, but there are actually 60 because they've been breeding, or however many.
Yep.
And they're not looking for them because they're looking for a specific number. So it turns out they think they have 230 dinosaurs in the park, and they have like 300 because they've been breeding. There are so many more. And they were so sure that it wasn't possible to have more that they were looking for, that they were only looking to see if they had less than they were expecting. They were never looking to see if they had more than they were expecting.
That is a plot twist that I think is absolutely fantastic.
I thought that was great.
Total credit for
And I, again, give him credit for the fact that is actually how computers work.
Exactly. So there are all these different things going on. There's all these conspiracies going back and forth on the mainland about the island. There's a whole lot going on in it. The movie is a very, very simplified view of what that was.
Right.
So I want to talk about the movie.
Okay.
So let me give a little bit of background on this. So Michael Crichton is someone who was very popular among filmmakers. His stuff had absolutely been turned into movies. The Great Train Robbery, he directed himself.
I did not know that.
With Sean Connery and Donald Sutherland. Like, he was very popular. I mean, Michael Crichton is a guy who, even if we take the books that he wrote aside, like, just off the top of my head, the books he wrote that were turned into movies: The Terminal Man, Andromeda Strain, Congo, Sphere, Jurassic Park, The Lost World, Rising Sun, Disclosure, Timeline. Eaters of the Dead was turned into a fantastic movie called The 13th Warrior that we definitely could cover in another episode. The Great Train Robbery, he directed. He created ER.
I was about to say, you're leaving something major out. And I guess if we're talking about our personal experience with Michael Crichton, I have seen every episode of ER.
Yeah.
Like, that was my show.
Absolutely.
When I was a kid. Anyway, I'm sorry. Please continue.
So he is someone who absolutely was heavily... And so if I compare him to another writer, I'll compare him to Stephen King. So this is my kind of impression of how they're different. Yeah. Stephen King always struck me as the kind of writer who would write lots of books, and when Hollywood came knocking, he would usually go, cool. Like that's
Is that what he sounds like?
I've met him.
I
He's
was
a
about
really
to
nice
say
guy.
you've met Stephen King.
I'm from Bangor, Maine, so I've met Stephen King a bunch of times. He's a really nice guy. So that is what has always struck me about Stephen King. Michael Crichton strikes me as much more of the type of guy who was writing his books
for Hollywood.
For Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
He was doing it specifically.
I totally get that.
And as evidence of that, let's talk about Jurassic Park.
Yep.
Jurassic Park was purchased. The rights were purchased. It was being developed. Animatics and storyboards were being made. The script was being written before the book was even finished.
That's crazy.
He was talking to Steven Spielberg. He said, I'm working on this thing about dinosaurs. And Steven Spielberg goes,
dinosaurs.
Done, I'm in. I love dinosaurs. That's great. I want to do this.
I mean, that's pretty cool.
It is super cool, but that's a really big thing about Hollywood that I think a lot of people may not really be aware of, is that tons of books will get optioned before they're even finished being written.
Yeah, that's crazy. I had no idea about that. Mm-hmm. And it's really interesting to me. Like, I guess my question would be like, well, then why bother writing the book? Why not just be a screenwriter?
Well, because he wants to make as much money as possible, and he is a writer. He's got to write the books because he makes a ton of money with that. I mean, I bet, you know what, I have nothing to go on with this, but I would be interested to see whether he made more money off the book than he did off the movie.
Well, I guess it depends on whether he got a cut of the merchandising.
Exactly, which I'd be very interested to know about. So
I cannot imagine that he didn't.
No, yeah, that's absolutely true. I bet he did. So basically, Spielberg said to him, yes, I absolutely want to do this. They got the rights to it. I've heard that there was kind of a bidding war going back and forth. If you look at any information, like behind the scenes, stuff like that, of course, they never talk about that. As far as they're concerned, it was always going to be Spielberg. But I've heard that, it may have been someone else. Because I'm assuming a lot of studios were interested in this because it's dinosaurs. Mm-hmm. So the first draft of the script was written by Michael Crichton.
Okay.
And it was, I think, hewed kind of closely to the story.
Right.
Now,
you mean the story of the book?
The story of the book. Now, here's the problem. And this is a problem with mainstream Hollywood cinema. It would be great to say, oh yeah, the screenwriter of that movie. But that's not how it works. Any of these movies have multiple screenwriters.
Well, I noticed there were 2 credited screenwriters, one of whom was Michael Crichton.
Exactly. It's Michael Crichton and a guy named David Koepp. There are other people that worked on this script.
No, yeah, no question.
There are absolutely other people that worked on this script. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter that much because, and I really firmly believe this, especially about someone like Spielberg, it doesn't matter as much who the writer was. It's Spielberg's movie.
Right. Spielberg
said, this is what I want to make. He was already designing sequences based on what his ideas of the book were before the script was even finished being written. But David Koepp does get second screenwriter credit, and from what I can see, David Koepp is the screenwriter of Jurassic Park.
Right.
He's the one who wrote it. He's someone that Steven Spielberg used a number of different times for a number of different movies. He's a good screenwriter. He knows what he's doing. So a lot of changes were made from the book to the movie. And, we're going to talk about other books that have been turned into movies where the person writing the movie has the complete book to look at. They have the whole thing. And I don't know that they had that luxury when they were making Jurassic Park when it was being written.
Yeah, and also, it's just really interesting because I didn't know any of this. And it's just fascinating to think of, a book being written with the writer specifically in their head going, I know this is going to be a movie. Mm-hmm. It's already been optioned. Jane Austen is not writing Pride and Prejudice going, what is going to be best for the movie?
Right.
So it's just an interesting way of thinking about a book. Mm-hmm. A book that's supposed to kind of stand on its own as a book.
Exactly.
So,
and I think this really brings one thing to light that we have to talk about right now. We don't have Michael Crichton here in the room. We can't ask him this question.
He's passed.
That's why we don't have him in the room.
I mean, that's not the only reason we don't have him in the room.
That is the only reason we don't have him in the room. I can get Michael Crichton in the room. Absolutely. So, if we were to ask Michael Crichton, what is the most important thing in the book to you? it's dinosaurs.
Right.
It's 100% dinosaurs.
He was like, I'm going to write a book about dinosaurs.
And the characters don't matter.
Right.
I can't imagine that they mattered that much to him. And as evidenced by the fact that the characters are all so different in the movie than they are in the book.
Right.
And it's not even that they don't appear, it's that they are just fundamentally different people.
Right. And I think it's really interesting that you can have a character on a page that if you just stood that character up and made them flesh and had them portrayed by an actor, it wouldn't work.
Right.
It wouldn't work. So let's talk about Hammond.
Yeah, let's talk about Hammond for a second. He probably, I think, would change the most.
The biggest difference.
Absolutely.
So in the movie, he is... So what were some of the words that we used to describe his character in the book? He's kind of bloodthirsty, and he's money grubbing, and he's unpleasant, and
uncaring,
he doesn't care about anyone. In the movie, he's adorable.
Yep.
He's charming, and he's Scottish, and he's cute.
He's a delight. He's an absolute delight.
Delightful. He loves his grandchildren.
And when he makes a mistake, he feels bad about it.
He feels bad about it. And when he does the thing. So the thing that he does this in the book, that he goes, next time we're going to do it better. I'm going to get different people. It's going to be different. And the difference between that sequence in the movie and the book is, in the book it just happens in his head when he's kind of justifying everything to himself. And in the movie, he says it out loud to another person, and the other person basically looks at him and goes, that's bullshit. You are not going to do this again. You know that you're not going to do this again. And he's kind of like, yeah, no, you're right.
Absolutely.
This was my last gasp.
He is such a totally different character.
And is rewarded with survival.
With survival. He makes it. He totally makes it. So let's talk about his death in the book.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the movie, he makes it. In the movie, he totally makes it. His death in the book might be one of my favorite death scenes of any character.
Because like, the whole time he's trying to justify to himself why he's fine. And then he gets eaten by dinosaurs.
So here's what happens, just to kind of remind everyone. He's walking. Everything's okay now.
Everything's marginally okay.
Everything's better.
Yeah.
They've got, the fences are back up. The T-Rex has been tranked. Like, everything
The helicopter's on its way.
Helicopter's on its way. Everything's going to be okay. He's walking around outside the compound, and he hears a T-Rex roar. And he freaks out, and he runs down a hill, trips and falls, hurts himself, and he's lying there. And that's when the compies, the Procopsignathus, when they come...
Say that word again?
See, now that you're making me say it again, I can't just rattle it off. The compies. They're called compies. Tiny little dinosaurs that have like a slightly... Their bite is...
They eat babies.
It's a tranquilizer, basically.
They eat babies.
They do eat babies. The babies get eaten in the book.
Yeah.
That happens.
Like multiple babies.
Thanks, Michael Crichton. So they all attack him and they eat him. And it is such a pitiful death scene. He fell and he gets eaten by tiny dinosaurs. And he's drifting off into death and oblivion, just totally blissfully unaware of his fate. And the best part is, where was that an actual T-Rex that roared? No. It
was the kids playing with the loudspeaker.
Kids were playing with the loudspeaker. They hit a button that said T-Rex roar.
Yeah.
He died for no reason.
I mean, other than to be punished for his folly.
He died for no reason other than that he deserved it.
Right.
He deserved it because he sucks and he's an asshole.
Yes.
That's the Hammond in the book. The Hammond in the movie's wonderful, and he survives.
Adorable.
And he is
he likes to drink champagne.
Yeah, he is and he knows his way around a kitchen.
He knows his way around a kitchen, and he knows his way around the computer system, and he's...
It does bear mentioning, he is the reason all of these terrible things are happening.
Right, but he seems to feel it.
He feels it. He understands. I mean, there's a line at the end of the movie where Grant has his great line, after careful consideration, I've decided not to endorse your park.
And he says, neither do I.
Neither have I.
Neither have I.
So have I.
So have I. We just got that line really badly wrong.
Doesn't matter. Like, he gets it. You get the idea that he gets it. He's a delightful character. So Hammond, very different. Super different.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Grant and Ellie, because we started with them.
Can we talk about the thing I said about Sam Neill at the beginning of the movie?
Sure.
So one of our favorite movies is The Hunt for Red October.
Yep.
Which also stars Sam Neill.
Yep.
And Sam Neill has a
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert for Hunt for Red October. I know you were thinking, I only need to know about spoiler alerts for Jurassic Park. Now I need to know about Hunt for Red October. Here's the deal. Skip ahead a minute. You've got a minute to say what you're going to say.
Right. He talks about he's Russian and he's defecting, and he says to Sean Connery, he talks to Sean Connery about the life that he would like to have once they've defected, and he's going to go to Montana and marry a fat American woman and raise bunnies.
Mm-hmm. Totally gets shot, doesn't get to see Montana.
Well, his last words are, "I would have liked to have seen Montana."
Absolutely.
And then at the beginning of the movie, they're in Montana, and I said to you, he did get to see Montana.
Absolutely.
Because it's Sam Neill.
Mm-hmm. So Sam Neill's great.
I like Sam Neill very much.
Here's the thing.
I'm not sure what his accent was doing in this
No,
movie.
his accent's a mess. I mean, Sam Neill got hired really late. So I was doing a little research. It turns out their first pick was William Hurt.
Oh.
Yeah. He would have been fine.
Yeah.
He said no when he read the script. So that's my understanding.
Shocker.
That's my understanding of it.
Shocker.
He said no after that. They talked to Harrison Ford.
William Hurt has done some garbage though, so like.
Yeah, but he's also great.
No, he's great.
He's great. The next person they talked to was Harrison Ford. Now,
I mean, that was a reach.
Here's the thing. This part may be apocryphal.
Okay.
I cannot say that. I have heard this referenced, but I haven't actually seen it, what the decision was for why not Harrison Ford. It could be that he would have required too much money. Mm-hmm. Different stories that I have heard and I have read over the years is that Harrison Ford is a marquee movie star. And the stars of Jurassic Park are the dinosaurs, not the actors. And he would have taken away from that. Whether he understood that and said no, or whether Spielberg understood that, or Kathleen Kennedy or the other persons said no.
Focus from the dinosaurs.
Harrison Ford would absolutely have pulled focus from the dinosaurs. I think that makes sense. So they got Sam Neill.
I mean...
And here's the deal. Other than his really, really suspect accent, he's wonderful.
Oh, he's great.
I love him in this.
No, he's great.
I absolutely love him in it. He's great.
He's great.
There's one line in the movie, though, as far as the accent goes, that just gets me.
What
It's when they're going to see the Dilophosaurus, and they don't at the beginning. He's got this moment where he can just really vent some frustration about it, and he's this American guy going, damn. It's ridiculous. It's not good. His accent's not very good in the whole movie.
It's not great. They should have just... I don't know.
But he came to the movie really late in the game. He's from New Zealand.
New Zealand?
Yeah.
New Zealander?
Well, now I have to check. New Zealand.
Okay.
So basically, Sam Neill came to the production really late. He was hired just a couple of weeks before they started shooting. So I don't really blame him for the accent. It's not like you're going to have him work with an accent coach that soon before the movie starts.
I feel like if you're Sam Neill, you should have kind of an American accent in your back pocket ready to go.
I don't blame him for that. He's great. So I really have no problems with him. One thing about him, though, and compared to the way the character's portrayed in the book, the age is the same, but the type of person they are, I think, is pretty different.
Yeah, he's like kind of sexy.
Yeah. And he's not this big barrel-chested guy. Sam Neill has always been someone who I think is handsome, but thoughtful.
Yeah.
He's a very thoughtful person.
He's more
very sensitive.
He's definitely more of a professor type.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's
which is what he's supposed to be.
And there's a big thing about his character that was a massive change from the books.
Go ahead.
He doesn't like kids.
He doesn't like kids.
Does not like kids.
Like, he's actively doesn't like kids because he needs to have a journey to go on.
And this is, I think, the very best change that was made from the book to the movie.
Interesting.
He is, I think, for all intents and purposes, our main character. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the dinosaurs are the reason we're watching. Grant is the one who goes on a journey. He learns what it is to care about kids. He protects them. He forges this relationship with Tim and Lex throughout the course of the movie. He actually goes on a journey. And I think one of the nicest things is the final shot of the movie, one of the final shots of the movie where, yeah, he's in a relationship with Ellie, but they're not sitting together on the helicopter. Mm-hmm. She's looking at him while he has Tim and Lex falling asleep on either side of him.
And she's going, he's going to be such a good dad.
It's so sweet. Yeah. I love it. And I think it really speaks to the kind of subtext that Spielberg wanted in the movie.
I mean, how do you feel about the fact that they created a romantic relationship between those two characters where there wasn't one in the book?
I'm fine with it.
You're fine with it?
It doesn't bother me.
See, it bothers me.
The concept of adding romantic relationships where there doesn't need to be one is something that I have an issue with.
Yeah.
In this particular context, I don't, for a couple of reasons. Okay. One, I think the two actors they got are wonderful.
They do have a lot of chemistry together.
They have so much chemistry. It does not bother me at all.
And it doesn't seem like, they don't seem like obviously like teacher and pupil. Like, she's got a lot of agency.
Exactly, which we'll talk about when we talk about Ellie a little bit more.
Okay.
But their relationship does not bother me. I think it's handled really well. I think it's handled respectfully. I don't think it's there just to make the audience engaged in a way that's kind of false. I don't think it's manipulative. I don't think it's there to be manipulative. I think it was a deliberate choice.
And it's not, like, gratuitous. Like, there's nothing sexy about it.
Not even a little.
Yeah. Other than, like, her legs that get commented on.
She's got great legs.
I mean, as we hear multiple times.
So that's Grant. Let's talk about Ellie for a second.
Yes.
Now, here are some things about her. She is 26 years old in this movie.
Who's 20? The
Laura
actress.
Dern.
Laura Dern is 26.
Is 26, which blew my mind.
She doesn't read as 26. She reads as much older.
So the fact that she is basically the same age as Ellie in the book, I think is actually not significant because she does read as someone much older in the movie.
Yeah, she doesn't read as someone younger or of lower status than Grant, even though she's supposed to be his student.
It definitely feels like he is older than her. I think it feels like he's 10, 15 years older than her and not 20 plus years older than her.
No, it's very interesting because the way that she's costumed, like at the beginning she's in these like, I mean it's the 90s, but she's in these like kind of stonewashed mom jeans. Yeah. Like she's not, we don't get like a gratuitous body shot of like the sexy scientist. And I actually think that today, well, I feel like things are coming back around a little bit, but I feel like late 90s, early 2000s, mid 2000s, like she would have been like played by like, I don't know, Kim Kardashian or someone.
I think you don't, I don't know about that.
Who's that actor? Not Kim Kardashian, but
talking about popular movie stars with Ariel Lipshaw. This is the best part of this podcast.
Oh my god, who's the person I'm thinking of? She's got like dark Megan Fox.
Okay.
She would have been played by Megan Fox.
All right.
And she would have been like real sexy, and we would have gotten a shot of her like from the bottom up, and the camera would have like lingered longingly on her body. What I'm saying is that didn't happen.
I'm glad you know a popular actress. I'm happy for you that you know a popular actress.
Shove off.
Okay.
I'm saying something that I appreciated about the movie, which is I didn't feel like she was, despite being the only woman in the movie, not the only female character because we have a little girl, but the only woman in the movie.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, I agree.
The only one.
Yeah.
I don't think she is treated as a sex object.
No, she absolutely isn't.
Other than by characters that we are given the perspective that what they are saying is not appropriate.
Right, exactly.
As opposed to the book where she's ogled?
Objectified
by every single male character in a way that goes uncommented on by our author, Mr. Michael Crichton.
Exactly. So I
have some quotes that I can read out.
You know what? I am interested. Yeah, I want to hear these.
I took some notes.
Thank you.
Page 64.
For those following along at home.
I believe, I don't remember which character says this. It's whoever.
Is it a man?
It is a man.
Then doesn't matter. Go ahead.
It doesn't matter who it is. I think it might be Gennaro. Looks at her and says, in surprise, "You're a woman." And then later on, Ian Malcolm, on page 73, so less than 10 pages later, says to a scientist and, a professional in her field, "You're extremely pretty. I could look at your legs all day."
I mean, yeah, but Malcolm's kind of gross.
I don't think he is treated as gross.
You don't think Michael Crichton wrote that intentionally for a gross character?
I don't. And the reason that I don't is because every other character reacts to her in exactly the same way.
Okay.
He just is a little more explicit.
Bottom line, I think it doesn't even need to go beyond the fact of the way Michael Crichton describes her and how little he goes into her character.
No, that's fine. Let's go back to talking about her in the movie because I think they did it better.
So I want to objectify Laura Dern for a second.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So
please don't.
No, I'm going to.
All right.
I'm going to. If we're talking about Hollywood, it's not that I want to objectify her, it's that we have to be honest about the fact that people in movies objectify the actors and actresses that they hire. Okay. Laura Dern is beautiful. I think she is absolutely beautiful. She's not
Megan Fox.
She's not Megan Fox. She's not that type of hot.
Right.
And she's not the type of hot that Ellie Sattler is described as in the book.
Ellie Sattler is basically described as, like, looking like a bimbo.
Exactly.
And then people are surprised, although she never really does anything.
Exactly. And that is not Laura Dern.
No, not
and it's
at all.
really refreshing that she is absolutely attractive, but she is not that type of attractive.
No, and that's actually what I'm trying to say, is that I feel like in the early 90s you could get away with a female character in a movie not being incredibly sexy as well as smart.
Mm-hmm.
They could just be like a normal person.
Yeah. But let's talk about Ellie's agency in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
She is the only female character.
Mm-hmm.
But she has some moments of legitimate agency in this movie.
Yes.
She is the one who calls Hammond on his bullshit.
She does.
She is the one who does that. And then she calls him on it later, too.
Well, she says, I mean, I think we're thinking of the same moment, but he says she's going to save the day.
Right.
And he says, well, I should go. And
because
she says,
I'm
why?
a...
Because
and
I'm
you're
a... And you're a... And
yep.
she says something about, we can talk about sexism and survival situations later.
Yep.
And I like that.
That's
I like that sexism is explicitly mentioned.
Absolutely.
I mean, Ian Malcolm is super gross to her when they're on the helicopter and he's like touching, and in the Jeep, and he's like touching her and like explaining things to her and being really mansplaining.
Yeah, but he also is Jeff Goldblum.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. I feel in this instance, in this case, I feel like it's because the character is a jerk and not because the author is not thinking about how every single one of his characters treats his one female character. Although my note was, ew, leave her alone. She is a scientific professional.
Yeah, but he's a rock star.
Right, but
I bring scientists, you bring a rock star. That's the line in the movie.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's Ellie.
Yes.
Let's just kind of go quickly through some of the other characters and the way that they were changed.
Okay.
So first of all, Ed Regis, not appearing in this film.
Not appearing in this film.
Okay. He and Gennaro have been combined. So Gennaro's not this nice, normal, responsible guy anymore.
He's the blood-sucking lawyer.
He is the blood-sucking lawyer. He's a jerk. And you know what? He gets what he deserves.
He gets eaten on a toilet.
Totally eaten on a toilet.
And he abandons the little children.
He does. He's a jerk.
Yeah.
He's totally not... Other than the name, he is not the character from the book.
He's really Ed Regis.
Yeah. It's totally different.
Yeah.
And
in the book, Ed Regis pees his pants.
And this is, I think it speaks to the whole idea of this movie was being written before the book was even finished.
Right.
You know, they knew that Gennaro was a lawyer.
Right.
That's all we need to know. Lawyers suck.
Lawyer.
Lawyers suck.
My dad's a lawyer.
Well, yes, he absolutely is.
My dad's a blood-sucking lawyer.
Yep. So basically, he's totally different. And I don't even think there's much that needs to be said about Gennaro. He's not the same character. No. Ian Malcolm.
Pretty similar.
Basically the same, but the perspective of the creators is different.
Yeah. Totally.
Michael Crichton is writing him as kind of a jerk, but I don't think Michael Crichton understood that. Steven Spielberg, David Koepp, Kathleen Kennedy, I think they're presenting this character, Jeff Goldblum, they're presenting this character as a jerk, but they're playing it for laughs because he is the smartest idiot in the movie.
Right, and his big speech gets way moved up. That was the thing that was interesting to me, like that big speech that he gives at the dinner table.
Yeah.
In the book, he gives that
Which,
speech like
as
when
I said,
he's like...
As I said when we were watching it, that is absolutely my favorite scene in the whole movie, and I want to talk more at length about that in a little bit.
All I'm saying is in the book, he gives that speech when he's like already dying.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you didn't know your own folly. But in the book, it's more like he's predicting it. Or I'm sorry, in the movie, it's more like he's predicting it, and then everything goes horribly wrong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So he's basically the same, but the context is totally different.
Yeah.
Let's finish
talk about
up
the kids.
Let's talk about the kids because there's other little ones like Nedry's
about the same.
He's not that different.
Yeah.
He's definitely played more broad in the movie, more for laughs.
Dr. Wu, I think, is pretty similar. He was just a much smaller part.
Exactly.
Like he's
and then
still,
dies.
And then dies.
Yeah.
Like he's still kind of like overbearing and full of himself. Yeah. But he has to do it. He only has like 2 or 3 lines in which to do it. Played by the great B.D. Wong, by the way.
Yes, he's absolutely fantastic. So then that leaves the kids. That leaves Tim and Lex. This is another case where I think that the choices made were great. Now, one interesting thing that I found out. Why do you think they reversed their ages for the movie?
I'm interested to know what you think.
Well, I know what I think because I know what Steven Spielberg said.
Oh, okay.
He wanted to work with Joseph Mazzello.
Okay.
And it necessitated that they switch the ages.
They couldn't have hired like a little girl?
Well, she would have had to have been 3 years old.
Well, how old was Joseph Mazzello?
In the movie?
Yeah.
Well, he's under 10.
Because they're supposed to be like 7 and 11, but
Yeah.
I feel like he's 11 and she's 13, so I don't know why they couldn't have had a littler girl.
I mean, I think you're being too specific about movie ages.
All right, fair enough.
Ages in real life are not ages in movies.
Okay.
Yeah. Steven Spielberg really wanted to work with Joseph Mazzello.
What was Joseph Mazzello in that he knew of him?
No, I think they had auditioned him.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
They auditioned him. He said he wanted to work with him. So that necessitated switching the ages. So they got Joseph Mazzello to play Tim. They got Ariana Richards to play Lex. And they switched the ages. And they made some choices about the characters. So
well, they divided up their interests.
Exactly.
Between them.
So Tim became Tim and Lex.
Right.
So he became a young boy that was into dinosaurs and an older girl who's into computers.
Right.
And she saves the day.
She does.
And I will say this. Many things have been said about how she saves the day by people who've spent way more time on it than we have. Yeah, maybe that's not how
Computers
work. That's not really the point. The point is, I mean, here's the deal. Anyone who says that's not how computers work, I think is inherently sexist because they don't want a girl to have saved the day. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say, no, I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, I said that's not how computers work because I know how computers work.
No, that was an overstatement. No, but basically they switch up the characters a little bit, and I really think that they made some really good choices, especially in terms of how it relates to Grant and how he feels about kids and the relationship he forms with them. I have no problems with either of them in the movie. I think that they are better than the characters were in the book. They're less annoying than they were in the book.
They're very good.
I
as
care
child
about them.
actors go, I thought they were quite good.
They're fantastic.
Yeah.
They're absolutely
Both of
fantastic.
them.
I love the both of them in this movie. They're wonderful.
Do we know like what they're doing now? Do you have any research
Well, Joseph
on that?
Mazzello is still an actor.
He's still an actor?
He was in The Social Network.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
What's she doing?
She's a painter now.
Okay.
And I don't know. Here's the thing. She also was in another movie back then that I love, which was Tremors. She's the little girl in Tremors.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, we saw Tremors.
I know we did. And then she appeared in the Tremors TV show a number of years ago. And then there's maybe not the TV show, but like one of the sequels she
Okay.
was in. Honestly, I'd have to look really quickly. I don't know what she's been in beyond that.
I mean,
but
she
she's
doesn't
got
act anymore.
she got a nice life for herself.
Good for her.
She's a good painter though.
Okay.
She's definitely a good painter.
Well, let's see. So this would have been... When was this movie made? Like 92, 93?
It was made in 92. It was released in 93.
Okay. So like you and I and Joseph Mazzello are kind of an age. Like
right.
he's like maybe a couple years older than
Yeah.
us. Which is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that kind of does it for the characters.
Yeah.
They're all very, very different. And all, again, it's just, they are in name only, for many of them, the characters from the books.
Right.
They are totally new, different characters with totally different relationships.
In the same situation, which is kind
in
of
the same
interesting.
situations. Let's talk about the situation.
Okay.
Let's talk about the dinosaurs.
Okay.
All right. Now, it is very hard to do research about this movie in terms of it as an adaptation because 99% of the information that has been created, behind the scenes footage,
It's about how they did the dinosaurs.
it's about the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Anything about the making of this movie is always about the dinosaurs first. So, for example, I watched all of the special features, behind the making of the movie.
Was it all about the dinosaurs?
These were made in multiple years. There was a behind-the-scenes documentary from 95, another one from 2011. In the 1995 one, it's James Earl Jones is narrating it.
Is it?
And he goes, the story of Jurassic Park began 65 million years ago. It's like, no, it didn't.
It's like literally the narration from the ride.
Exactly, yeah. It
Hi,
began...
I'm Mr. DNA. I'm in your blood.
Exactly. Like, it was I love that scene. So basically, all of the behind-the-scenes stuff is about how they created the dinosaurs. So let's talk about that for a minute.
I thought the dinosaurs looked just fine.
They look great. It holds up.
It holds up.
Yeah.
Like, there's a couple scenes, like, as you were saying, like, particularly, like, in broad daylight where you really do see kind of the green screen. But, do you know what I mean? Like,
well, it's not even the green scene.
It looks like they're standing in front of a green screen.
It's the texture of the dinosaurs kind of falls a little bit when you're in broad daylight.
Okay, have different language to describe it. To me, it looked like they were standing in front of a green screen.
Gotcha. Yeah. But like, what about the
especially
T-Rex
once
attack?
The T-Rex attack is really scary.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know how much of that was a practical T-Rex head and how much of it was CGI, but like when the T-Rex is like stalking them inside the car, like That's super scary. Like, I just think it holds up really, really well. And, like, there are other things from years later. We recently watched Star Wars Episode 1 that does not hold up at all. And that's from, what, 99?
That's, literally from 6 years later.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I thought it looked great.
Yep. Well, here, I have a question for you. So, basically, how many minutes of CGI do you think there is in Jurassic Park?
Oh, gosh. Well, how long is the movie? Like
2 hours and 15 minutes.
2 hours and 15 minutes. That's what I was going to say. 2 hours and 15 minutes. I bet it's a lower number than you would think.
What do you think? What's your guess? In a 2 hour and 15 minute movie it's full of dinosaurs.
I'm going to say 15 minutes.
4 minutes.
Wow.
4 minutes of CGI in that movie. So I will say this.
Is it 4 minutes of dinosaurs or 4 minutes of CGI?
4 minutes of CGI.
Practicals.
4 minutes of CGI.
You call it like a practical, right? Like a model.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I will hold Jurassic Park up as one of the best examples of knowing when to use what types of technology to do special effects in a movie. Yeah. So I'm going to go off on a tangent here for a second. Go ahead. I got opinions about this.
Yeah.
So I want to state this in two different ways.
Have we mentioned that you went to film school?
I've got opinions. So I went to film school. Just because you didn't get it doesn't mean it's bad. Is
that the film school mantra?
That's the film school motto.
Okay.
Oh my God. So if you want to piss anybody off, just say just because you didn't get it doesn't mean it's bad.
Oh boy.
There are, I think, few filmmakers that use special effects as well as Steven Spielberg does. He knows when to use certain techniques. He knows when not to use other techniques. He knows when to hold it back. Another filmmaker that I think of is someone, Guillermo del Toro. He uses practical, he uses CGI, he mixes them beautifully. There's a movie that I hate for how it uses special effects.
Star Wars Episode 1.
Nope, Jurassic World.
Oh.
Yeah. In Jurassic World, best that I could tell, every single instance of a dinosaur in that movie was CGI. Uh-huh. Every single instance. And it struck me as basically like it was being made by people who said, you know what? We're going to do CGI for every dinosaur shot because it's that good and we're that cool. We can say that every single dinosaur was CGI. But the fact of the matter is, sometimes it should be practical. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it should be a real thing. Sometimes it should be CGI. Sometimes it should be a mix. That T-Rex attack in Jurassic Park, it is amazing how fluid it is in terms of when it transitions from a practical effect to a CG effect.
Well, and I will say that as a non-professional, mm-hmm. I think really the highest compliment is, so like, okay, the first shot of the dinosaurs where they see like, what is it, the brontosauruses? Brachiosauruses, where they get out of the Jeep and they're like, oh my God,
yep, and that's dinosaurs. When I cry.
Where you cried.
Yeah.
I was thinking, oh, those effects don't look too bad. Mm-hmm. Again, as a non-professional that doesn't know anything about effects,
sure.
That's what I was thinking. Mm-hmm. The T-Rex attack never crossed my mind. All I was thinking was, holy shit, the T-Rex is attacking that car. Mm-hmm. Like, I wasn't thinking about how it was done.
Exactly.
And I think that's the most important thing.
I think it's one of the best special effects sequences that's ever been in any movie ever.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing. The movie is so good. And the raptor attack at the end in the kitchen.
Oh, it's very scary.
Like, that goes back and forth between practical and CG constantly. And it's amazing how little of that scene is CG.
And again, I never thought, mm-hmm. while I was watching that scene, never thought about how it was done. Never thought to wonder how it was done.
This is the first time we'd ever seen CG dinosaurs in anything. It is hard to overstate just how important this movie is in terms of its special effects. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense to me that all the behind-the-scenes features, everything that's been written about this movie is about the CGI. And
because it's important in the history of filmmaking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the screenplay.
Yeah.
So I have some interesting notes from all of the behind-the-scenes features.
Oh, boy.
First of all, David Koepp never appears in any of the behind-the-scenes features.
David Koepp, the screenwriter.
The screenwriter of the movie.
Of the film.
He appears in one photo.
Okay.
Michael Crichton appears a couple of times, and it's interesting because, well, I think it makes sense. The video of him is the same in the 95 one and the 2011 behind the scenes.
Wasn't he already dead?
Yeah, but they clearly just used the same interview. And there's no reason to say more than that because in his interviews, all he talks about is, this was my idea for how they could clone dinosaurs. Uh-huh. It is so clear that dinosaurs is the reason he wrote it.
Right.
Dinosaurs is the reason he wrote it. Dinosaurs is the reason that Spielberg wanted to make it. That's basically it.
Mm-hmm.
So the special effects are fantastic. Yeah, like they don't talk about casting.
Mm-hmm.
They briefly mention casting Laura Dern, Sam Neill, and Jeff Goldblum.
Okay.
They briefly mention that. Gennaro, they just refer to as the lawyer. They literally don't even use his name in the special features. They never refer to that.
The blood-sucking lawyer.
In all of the stuff that I watched, with all of the interviews with all of the actors, the only actor to actually acknowledge the differences between the book version of the character and the character that they played is Ariana Richards.
Oh.
She's the only one who actually
and she
acknowledged
said
that.
They made her older.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. And there was one line where Spielberg says the credit for giving the character's personality was David Koepp.
That doesn't surprise me.
He says that was all David Koepp. They do not, I really firmly believe, other than Malcolm, they don't have personalities in the movie. In the book.
In the book.
In the book.
Oh, no.
In the movie, they all, whether how dimensional they are as characters, that's a separate conversation, but they all have personalities.
Yes, I would
they
agree with
absolutely
that.
have personalities.
Definitely, I would agree with that.
Yeah. So I think there were a lot of great choices that were being made. So, I mean, what else is there to talk about, really? I would say my nominee for Sir not appearing in this film is David Koepp, because he appears nowhere in anything that I could find about the writing of this movie.
My nominee for Sir not appearing in this film is Dr. Roberta Carter.
Don't remember her.
She is the doctor in the very first scene of the book that they bring the injured man who dies.
Yep.
And the reason that I say Dr. Roberta Carter is she is the only person in the book who appears to be good at their job.
Yeah, that's fair to say.
Yeah.
No, Muldoon's good at his job.
Well, not great, clearly, because his job is security and everyone gets eaten.
Yeah, but he knew that there were problems.
I mean,
He absolutely knew there were problems.
Well.
And Wu was good at his job. He made a bunch of
No,
dinosaurs.
he was bad at his job. He made a bunch of dinosaurs that weren't supposed to be able to reproduce.
Yeah, but life found a way.
I have a thing to say.
Okay.
So life finds a way is not in the book at all.
No, it's not. It absolutely isn't.
Basically, the way that it's presented in the book is you made a bad mistake. And you will not be going to space today.
You made a bad mistake. Yep. No dinosaur park for you because of your bad mistake.
You made a bad mistake.
Yep.
And I guess my quibble would be that I don't know why the world's most brilliant geneticist didn't know there was a problem with using frog DNA, because I went to liberal arts college, and I know that there's a problem with using frog DNA.
Yeah, but then you get into a weird cyclical thing, because the only reason you know that is because of the movie Jurassic Park.
I don't think that's true, though, because I didn't remember it from the movie Jurassic Park. I was reading through the book, and I went, oh, yeah, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, no, it's in the culture because of Jurassic Park. And the one thing you can say about all of the characters in the book Jurassic Park, none of them had seen the movie Jurassic Park.
I mean, you can say that, yes, that is
I'm
a
not
true
going to hold
statement.
that against any of them. I'm not going to hold that against a single one of them.
I'm just saying.
Yep. So, where was I?
Frog DNA.
Frog DNA. No, I was talking about something else.
Asexual reproduction.
Oh, no, I know what I was going to say, because you were talking about the doctor at the very beginning.
Yes.
This is another thing that I think the movie's really good at that the book isn't. So the book begins with the scene where this guy is helicoptered into Costa Rica, and he's
been eaten.
He's been eaten, but, there's a
Or
cover-up.
mauled, not eaten,
He's been
mauled.
mauled. They're saying he was under a backhoe, and this
Clearly
doctor
that's
is
not
looking,
true.
he's saying that's not true. I just really like the fact that in the movie, we just see the attack.
Yeah. And that makes total sense.
It makes so much more sense.
I mean, it's a classic example of show, not tell.
Yeah, in the book, it's mysterious and everything, but in the movie, we actually get to see it. That's the point.
Right, but that brings us back to what I was saying before about that
Yeah.
scene, which is, I think it's really interesting that the scene portrays them as taking so many precautions, and the thing happens anyway, whereas in the book, you get the impression that no precautions of any kind were taken, and we're only lucky that so few people got eaten.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I guess in closing, maybe there's some little things that we left out here and there, but in closing, I just want to say, do you have anything to say?
Can I say, no, it's fine.
Oh, what's up?
Well, there was a line in the book that really upset me.
What was that?
It was when Ian Malcolm was talking about making things more efficient, and he talked about the number of hours that women devote to housework. And I didn't like that at all. And I didn't feel
Valid.
that was appropriately explored. You weren't seeing that through a lens of someone who was saying that was a bad thing to say.
I think that's valid.
Yeah.
No, good point, sweetie.
Yeah.
I love it.
But it seems to be a minor thing as we're trying to close out this episode of this podcast.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's
Hang on.
okay.
Wait, I just want to see if there's anything else in my notes. Yeah, I did have one other thing to say. So I feel like something that we've talked about on occasion is movies that would be over in 5 minutes if people had cell phones.
Right.
This is a movie that would be over in 5 minutes if people had GPS.
Okay, fair enough.
That's all I have to say.
Yep. Yeah, Nedry gets super lost.
He gets real lost, and that is just what causes all the trouble.
Super lost? No, he's super dead.
Yeah.
No, I want to end by saying this. Like, when we're really talking about adaptations, one thing that I have a really big problem with is making the judgment call about how a movie compares to a book. Mm-hmm. A lot of people will say the book was better or the movie was better. And I think that is inherently problematic. I think a different way to look at it would be this. Was the movie better at being a movie than the book was at being a book? And I would think, and I would imagine you agree with me, because I think we talked about this, I think this is a better movie than the book was a book.
Yes.
I think
not only did we talk about this, but we actually mentioned this at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly. So the movie, if we look at the book, for example, how does the book stack up in the history of literature?
Bad.
I mean, not great.
Not great.
It certainly sold a lot of copies, and a lot of people read it. And
it's not a fine work of literature.
No, and a lot of people probably own the mass market paperback, like
dog-eared
on their shelf.
Beautiful copy.
Yeah, this beautiful $20 copy from Barnes & Noble.
It's really nice, actually.
It's okay. So basically, as a book, it's fine.
Yeah.
The movie, though,
it's very good.
Top-notch entertainment.
As a movie, it is an excellent movie.
It's an excellent movie.
Like, you can pick and quibble at whatever you want, or you can say things are of their time, or, whatever. But, like, I think you would be hard pressed to find someone who looked at that movie and went, that is a poorly made movie.
Absolutely. And I think as evidence of that, I want to bring up one example of something that Steven Spielberg can bring to a movie, and a choice that can be made. And how much subtext matters to him, and how much foreshadowing matters to him, and how much the art of cinema matters to him. So they're dropping in the helicopter, and Alan Grant is trying to get his seatbelt on. Mm-hmm. Okay? How does he get his seatbelt to work?
Ties it in a knot.
Okay, because the two ends don't connect.
They're not connecting right.
They don't connect right.
Yeah.
But he makes it work.
Yeah.
And life finds a way.
Oh, boy.
How would you describe how all the dinosaurs can mate in that movie?
Well, you want me to say life finds a way?
Life finds a way. Like that, the seatbelt gag is direct foreshadowing for what the crux of the movie is going to be.
Like, something needs to happen, and it's going to happen.
Yep.
In some way that is not what was intended by this is actually very, very apt. That was not intended by the maker or designer of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. But they made it work. Mm-hmm. Even if one end is not designed to slot into the other end.
Oh, no. Oh, I see. You mean very literally.
Super literally.
Oh, I see. Like a penis.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Like sex.
I get it.
So that's just an example of something. This isn't David Lynch style. We need to.
I thought you meant, like, very metaphorically.
No, metaphorically and literally.
You mean literally like the male connector and the female connector.
Exactly. And this isn't like, someone like David Lynch, you could analyze him for years and still not figure out his work. I'm not saying this is as dense as that, but as a symbol of foreshadowing and as a symbol of subtext, I think Spielberg knows what he's doing. Uh-huh. I think he's better at making movies than Michael Crichton is at writing books.
I think that's absolutely true.
And that is where I stand on this. I love this movie. I love it. I absolutely think it's wonderful. Now, as it compares to The Lost World Jurassic Park, as it compares to Jurassic World, that I'm going to save for a later time. Mm-hmm. And I would love to do some follow-up with The Lost World at some point in the future, which, by the way, is not as good a movie as Jurassic Park is.
There you go.
But we can cover that in a future episode.
Cool.
That's all I have to say about it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well,
we did it.
We got to figure out a way to end this show.
I mean, here's the deal. Hold on to your butts, everybody. I hope everyone's butt was as held on to as possible. Oh my God, Sam Jackson. He dies so tragically off screen in the movie.
I know. We just see his leg.
His arm.
His arm?
His arm falls on her.
Aw.
Yeah, it's real sad.
We got to figure out a way to end this podcast.
He should have held on to his butt.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. As always, if you'd like to get in contact with us, you can find us on Twitter. Our handle is @AdaptCast. You can also get us by email at adaptorperishcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. If we got anything wrong, we'd love to hear it. If we got anything super right, we'd love to hear that from you too. Have a great day. Why would I end by telling you to have a great day? That's absolutely ridiculous. I have no idea when you're listening to this. All right, I'm done. Bye.